We're going to start a series of sessions on entrepreneurship. And we're going to go and explore some of the origins, the effects, and outcomes of the phenomenon known as entrepreneurship. Personally, I'm as affected as anyone I know, having been a serial entrepreneur since 1972. The HVCFI represents my 8th startup. Not all have been financially successful, although rewarding, but some work and some don't. And that's kind of the risk and the motivation that inspires fools like me to continue with operations like this. The HVCFI itself is, for any of you that don't know, a not-for-profit organization, and it's designed to foster and nurture technology development, commercialization here in the Hudson Valley and beyond. So you got to trust me when I tell you that it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, but entrepreneurship is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Is it rewarding? Absolutely. Is it creative and innovative? As colleges, universities, corporations, and economic development agencies are being placed under stresses never imagined, the need for continual creativity is paramount. It could be me. Okay. Our panelists joining us today are going to provide some insights into the capital markets and how, as entrepreneurs, you should approach them. How to get funding, how to look for funding, who to look for funding, where to look for funding, what kind of funding are you looking for? Are you ready for funding? Those are some of the issues that they're going to address. But as entrepreneurs, we need to do what we need to do in order to succeed, not just corporately, but personally, growth as well. And to me, that's extremely important. So as part of this multi-session presentation, we're going to be exploring a lot of different things. And some of this I'm going to have to read because some of it is lengthy. I apologize for that. But it's good information, and I think I want to be able to convey it to you in the right way. There are innumerable quotes and definitions on what is an entrepreneur. The term entrepreneurship could be found from the French verb entreprendre, I said that well, and in the 20th century, though the meaning may not be that applicable today. The meaning of the word then was to do something without any link to economic profit, which is the antithesis of what entrepreneurship is all about today. It was only in the early 1700s when French economist Richard Cantillon described an entrepreneur as one who bears risks by buying at certain prices and selling at uncertain prices, which is probably closer to today's definition. In the 1776 thought-provoking book, The Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith explained clearly that it was not the benevolence of the baker, but self-interest that motivated him to provide bread. From Smith's standpoint, entrepreneurs were the economic agents who transformed demand into supply for profit. That's much closer. In 1848, the famous economist John Stuart Mill described entrepreneurship as the founding of a private enterprise. This encompassed the risk takers, the decision makers, and the individuals who desire wealth by managing limited resources to create new business ventures. And here you have some of the hallmarks of what could be conceived as entrepreneurial. And it's going to be a long slide, so I apologize up front. In a series of surveys funded by the Kaufman Center for Entrepreneurship and Leadership, it was found that nearly 7 out of 10 youths aged 14 to 19 were interested in becoming entrepreneurs. Being an entrepreneur is now the choice of the new generation as compared to the preferred career choices of yesteryear, such as being a doctor, lawyer, fighter pilot, or nurse. In a recent visit to Shanghai, an informal survey was carried out amongst Chinese youth by the author. The results of the survey showed that being an entrepreneur, especially in the field of computer and e-commerce, is perceived as cool and is an aspiration for many Chinese youths. Prior to the opening up of modern China, being an entrepreneur was perceived as the outcome of one's inability to find a good government job. Entrepreneurship in the world's two most populous nations, China and India, has through modern times been somewhat asleep. But in a new book, which I invite you to read, by Tarun Kahana, published by the Harvard Business School, it's called Billions of Entrepreneurs, How China and India Are Reshaping Their Futures and Yours. He says, both societies have woken up, and the results could reshape business, politics, and societies worldwide. Now, Gerber is the author of another book called The E-Myth Revisited, which, again, I invite all of you to read. It's an invaluable for anyone looking to be or understand entrepreneurs. According to the Kaufman Index of Entrepreneurial Activity, a leading indicator of new business creation in the U.S., the number of new businesses created during the 2007 through 2009 recession increased steadily year to year. In 2009, the 340 out of the 100,000 adults who started businesses each month represent a 4% increase over 2008, or 27,000 more starts per month than in 2008, and 60,000 more starts than in 2007. For that kind of a swing, these are dramatic numbers. Who is an entrepreneur? Most of us aren't old enough to remember the Great Depression of the 1920s and 30s, but we've all seen the photos of soup kitchen lines, selling apples on the corner, and all the despair associated with that time. Well, here we are in 2010, and there have been comparisons by many pundits to that period in our country's history. But as most of us don't know, during that period, there were also great fortunes established. Fortunes established in oil, in steel, in mining, in transportation. Now, admittedly, some of these entrepreneurs, the new wealth, were created on account of conflict, namely World Wars I and II. Now, we're not in any way, shape, or form advocating conflict, but the result of those conflicts did bring us some very interesting technologies that we still live by today. We have cybersecurity. Let's just bring it to modern times. We have cybersecurity. We have GPS technologies, satellite communications, cable TV, all came out of that innovation period. And who can forget Tang? Remember Tang? Just pour it in water like the astronauts did, and it dissolved into pure, ugh. Okay. Ugh, that's a technical term. So these figures are in direct opposition to what was perceived to be the model of entrepreneurs back in the 1990s and early 2000s. The dot-com boom was manned by 20-somethings and fueled by funding groups looking to capitalize on their youth, inexperience, creativity, and ideas to generate an enormous amount of wealth. Well, there were successes. Sure, we can point to Jeff Bezos at Amazon. And why was he a success? Well, books have been sold for years. But were books ever sold on the internet? No. That was a creativity, that was entrepreneurship at its highest. We heard about Google's, Facebook's, Twitter's, Zappos. I was with the CEO of Zappos at a dinner last week, and I gotta tell you, he's a very creative guy, not very inspiring, but he's a creative guy, and his development is selling shoes over the internet, how to fit them, but his emphasis is on customer service. His customer service reps will pick up the phone and stay on the phone with you for hours, if that's your pleasure, and not buy anything. But one day you'll come back and you will buy something. That unto itself is kind of a new paradigm of entrepreneurship service. I'm unfortunately old enough where I can remember service where you'd pull into a gas station and they'd actually clean your windows, knew where your dipstick was, checked the tires for air, and so on and so on. Service in a service economy has kind of taken on different meanings. Service economies now mean that you get a hamburger quickly at a fast food place. Is that entrepreneurship? Is that a new way of doing things? And what have we lost as opposed to service? New generations don't know the service that we used to experience. So is it up to us to reinstate that service like Zappos? I think it is. Tony Hsieh's done an excellent job in restoring service as part of the overall entrepreneurial experience. Business is a contact sport. The entrepreneur is not really interested in doing the work. He's interested in creating the way companies operate. In that regard, the entrepreneur is an inventor. He or she loves to invent, but does not love to manufacture, sell, or distribute what she or he invents. If they don't fail outright, most businesses fail to fully achieve their potential. That's because the person who owns the business doesn't truly know how to build a company that works without him or her, which is the key. So the questions become obvious. The entrepreneur is a visionary, the creator in each of us. We're born with that quality, and it defines our lives as we respond to what we see, hear, feel, and experience. It's developed, it's nurtured, it's given space to flourish, or it's squelched, thwarted, without air or stimulation, and dies. You know, one definition of entrepreneurship today is due to, in some part, the financial crisis that we're going through now. Who are entrepreneurs? Well, there are new people that are becoming entrepreneurs, some of which might be in this room. People that worked for large companies may have run a division or a department, and they were very good at running that department, and inexplicably and for whatever reason, they don't have that job anymore. So with that knowledge, with that experience, with that enthusiasm and the passion, start their own company. Well, they may have been very good at their function, which in some part qualifies them for doing certain parts of their business. But what they fail to realize is that there's more involved in being an entrepreneur. There are the sales, there are the marketing, there's the accounting. I hate the accounting part. There's the distribution, there's the hiring, there's the firing, and everything else that goes along with running and operating a business, which are things that they don't know how to do. So to recognize what you know, what you don't know, and you don't even know to know what you don't know, is where organizations like Center for Innovation, Technology Development Center come in handy. And we're going to continue this discussion over the next few sessions. In our next installment, we're going to explore the evolution and integrated activities from which your business must survive: innovation, quantification, and orchestration. These are essential components into what happens in operating a business, and to see if you have what it takes, both on the knowledge, the passion to operate a business, and to begin your self-analysis and thinking, what do I need to do? Where do I need to go? Who do I need to call? Should I do this at all? And those are very important questions. So we'll begin to have this over the next several sessions, and we're going to explore not just entrepreneurship, but we're going to get into innovation, and we're going to get into different philosophies on how to be successful at these endeavors. So now